All right, gentlemen, welcome into the Week 13 Marchwood Sadness fantasy wrap up, as well as your playoff picture. Um, Quick note on that intro there: I am not friends with Randall on Facebook, and he has like four pictures available, so I chose the one that was most representative of his team name. If you don't recognize who that is, well, then I'm sorry that your life is a disappointment. Now, let's get on into it. First thing, as always, we're going to start with our top players of the week here. So, pulling that up. Quarterbacks. Speaking of Randall, he had the top quarterback in Josh Allen, who had 60.6 points, which is also what Derek Carr had for Jose. Now, Jose made a bold choice this week. Not that it mattered, but he benched Derek Carr for nobody. Um, that almost would have worked out last week, but a big hit this week. Running backs: David Montgomery for Neil, and then Dalvin Cook for Arias, 27 and 23, respectively. Wide receivers: Corey Davis, who was on Arias' bench, was also on my bench in a league where I needed to make the playoffs, so I feel you. And then Devontae Adams, 34 for Steve against the thing that we pretend is a defense on the Eagles. Tight ends, no shocker here. I mean, a little bit about the points. Waller got Steve 45 points. He had approximately 37 catches for like 500 yards, something like that. And then Kelsey got Arias 27.6 points. Flexes: Cole Beasley on Arias' bench again got 28. And Justin Jefferson on Dave's bench got 27 now. We all know Dave went with the Infinite Eagles approach, so we can't blame him for that one. Defenses: top defense was New England, who absolutely steamrolled the Chargers for some reason everybody saw coming. Yeah, they were on the waiver wires, and then Miami got me 16 points. Top kickers: this is the first week in a while I haven't had a kicker, so I'm disappointed. Butker got Randall 17, and then Sanders got Arias 14 points. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at our tracker here. If you noticed a theme in this week's top players, you were correct. It was Arias. He had 5 top players this week, which breaks the record that myself and myself and Tom were tied for with 4. So good job, Arias. Unfortunately, that didn't help you win, but hey, it still looks cool on the spreadsheet. You got that cell highlighted now. Other things of note: I only had 1 after saying how good my team was for a while. I had 1 this week, so that wasn't great. Steve leads total with 20 top players, and now Arias has moved into second with 17. Interestingly enough, that does not correlate at all to the playoffs. Our playoff participants, Steve, myself, Neil, and Randall, are ranked first. The 4th, 6th, and then 9th in terms of top players. So, yep, nothing really matters here, and there's no way to figure out what we're doing. So, now that's out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to what we all came here for, the actual playoff picture. I apologize to those of you who are not in it. I'm pretty much just going to highlight the 2 main matchups this week. I know we have some going on in the consolation bracket, and I will keep up with tabs on those as they go along, but as far as Outlook, I am just not going to do that. But I will, however, offer some interesting notes that happened this week. Like I said, Arias had 5 top players, and he almost beat Steve. It was damn close. It was like 177 to 172, I believe. Had Steve not gotten an absolutely ungodly performance from Darren Waller, then Arias would have beaten him. But alas, Steve was able to hold off, as he's done in all but 1 game this year. So could that be from foreshadowing? Probably. Dave's Eagles team performed exactly how we thought. Had he played literally 2 people on his bench, if he had played Roethlisberger and Jefferson, he would have beat the combined score of his entire starting lineup in the moment. Yeah. Interesting note on some playoff implication: Jose just absolutely gave up, but had he played his optimal lineup, he would have beat Neil. That would have included Carr, Marvin Jones, and McKissick over nobody, James White, and Jerry Jeudy, I believe. Which isn't necessarily crazy. But that would have beat Neil. And then I don't know what would have happened because Neil and Tom are tied exactly for points for. They both have 1802.1, I believe is the number. I don't feel like tapping off my screen. But they have the exact same number, and I have no idea what the second round of tiebreakers would be. I'm guessing it would be head to head, but I don't actually. If it was head to head, would that have changed anything? Let me see real quick. I should have done this before. This is lack of research. I'll get on my research team. So Neil beat Tom and lost to Tom. So they split 50-50. So I have no idea what would have happened, and I really would have liked to have seen. So Jose, man, I'm really disappointed on you. Last other note from around the league, it took 13 weeks. 13 weeks, but damn it, Nate finally got his Stafford breakout game. Unfortunately, it was 3 weeks too late, but it finally happened. Good job, Nate. Okay, now let's get into some detailed playoff discussion here. But first, since it's the playoffs, it's time for a playoff hat. All right, now we're ready. So I was going back and forth about which one to start off on. I'm going to start off with Steven Randall because this one is projected, just going off projections, and those don't matter. This is projected to be not as close, not a very close game. Steve is currently projected for 158, and Randall's projected for 134. Looking at their history through the regular season, because that absolutely matters, and there is absolutely logic you can apply to fantasy football. I mean, we already know Steve won both weeks. In week 2, Steve beat Randall 205 to 154. And he also beat in week 11, but it was much closer in week 11. Steve won 148 to 121, which probably was close to Steve's lowest for the season. I didn't do the required research to actually see if that was, but I'm imagining it was probably pretty close. So let's go with Steve's team here. We'll start with him. Steve, you finished with one loss and an absolutely ridiculous number of points. You outscored the next highest by 200 some points, at least, if I remember correctly, and it was just crazy. You are perfectly in the position to run away with this, but the question is, can you? You have a lot of superstars who have underperformed recently compared to what they were doing early in the season when you just kept putting up ridiculous points. So, who are we talking about here? Well, let's start with Russell Wilson. He has been under 40 points for the last 4 weeks. Now, he does have some get right matchups coming up. We'll talk about that a little later. Kamara, obviously still decent. Got 17 points last week, which is RB1. I would assume that's an RB1, probably. But he just hasn't been the absolute world beater and league winner that he was when Breeze was the quarterback. On the Steelers' defense, we saw that they're beatable this week. Sorry, bud. Yeah, it happened. And they have some tough matchups in the playoffs, and also one absolute cupcake where they'll probably get 20 points. So who knows if they all figure it out and play good or even play decent, then you should have nothing to worry about this round, and probably in the championships. The only issue you could have potentially going forward is week 17, but that's along in the future. Looking at this week's matchup, we'll just stay with this week here. Good matchups that I think you have Russell Wilson against the Jets. Obviously, the only hope is they don't go up by too many points right away and he doesn't have to do anything. They just run the ball. Kamara, again, against the Eagles defense. We saw what Aaron Jones did last week. I can't remember what other running backs have just wrecked us, but all of them. I think Chubb did recently, pretty much everyone. And then Devontae Adams against Detroit. He doesn't even need it to be a bad pass defense. He'll still do good. Some of the matchups I thought were maybe on the bad side. Brandon Cooks is going up against the Chicago defense, where they got torched by Rodgers a little while ago. They still have the ability to cover well, especially when Houston doesn't have many weapons to worry about. I put Waller on the list against Indianapolis. Now, again, he is one of those who's as close to matchup proof as you can get without technically being matchup proof. So while Indy has a good defense, it probably won't end up mattering. Deontay Johnson going up against Baltimore. They have looked much more beatable recently than they did when they first played, and he had one catch for 6 yards. I didn't look. I'm guessing he might have gotten hurt that game. He didn't miss any games after that, so I'm not entirely sure. But I feel like it's going to be. I would put money on it's going to be better than that. And the rest of them, I'd say, are pretty average or just middle of the road matchups. Um, Looking at your bench, which could be important. Right now, it's pretty meh. Now, hopefully, you don't need it, but a lot of injuries on the bench, a lot of just uninspiring options. Unless you want to put Adrian Peterson in there and bet that he's going to get 2 touchdowns for the third week in a row, which he won't, but it's there. I mean, Swift should come back at some point, but other than that, who knows if Brown's coming back? Um, Kobe Myers had one or two good games, two pretty good games, but Cam just doesn't throw the ball enough. Snell looked ugly. Watkins is perennially overrated and always hurt. Peterson will lose touches to Swift. Lamb is doing decent with Dalton throwing to him, but still, it's the Cowboys. And then who knows if Mixon comes back? Maybe we'll see. Um, Overall, though, I think you got a good chance this week. So, who is your opponent? You got Randall, which surprised me because I really thought it would be one in the East versus two in the West, and then one in the West versus two in the East, making it you, Neil, me, Randall. But that didn't happen for reasons that I cannot explain. Anyway, looking at Randall here. Randall's projected 134, like we said. Had a pretty solid last week of the regular season, but really, really no standouts. I went through and dug through his team for a little bit, and it has been a long time since any of his superstars have really showed out and had greater than 20 points. Now, yes, Deebo Samuel did get that last week, and he did start him off injury, got 25, which was great. But we're looking at guys like DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, these guys who you expected to lean on heavy just have not come through in the recently. James Conner as well. Um, so hopefully some of those can get back on track, or you might be stuck just leaning on hoping Josh Allen can get 80 points, especially against Steve. You did have some guys come back from injury, which is good. Miles Gaskin came back. David Johnson came back. David Johnson did come back or is going to come back? Did come back. Gaskin looked pretty good. Um, I honestly don't remember what Johnson looked like, but hopefully they can provide a spark. Now, I was looking at your team. I was going to comment on your bench, but it is virtually non-existent. You have 3 empty spots, and that you dropped off today. So I'm guessing you got a lot of waiver claims in. Now, there are some decent options out there, but there are not a lot that provide good consistency. So good luck with what you come up with. Um, Still rostering 2 kickers, which is bold. Just that's the thing. And 2 defenses, which is also bold. Um, so yeah, I am interested to see what you come up with after the waivers run tomorrow. Um, Matchups looking ahead to this week, what I would say are bad matchups. I had Zeke in there against Chicago, or sorry, no, these are good matchups. These are the good matchups. That makes sense. Yeah. The first one is Zeke against Cincinnati. The question is there such thing as a good matchup for Zeke recently? Um, who knows? He has looked a little better, looked decent against Minnesota, did pretty good against Baltimore's defense. So there's hope that he's coming back, but we'll see. We'll see if he really does or not. Julio is a pretty good matchup against the Chargers. Um, they've usually been a decent defense, but they absolutely got boat raced by New England. I know 2 of those were like special teams touchdowns, but still, they've shown that their defense is porous there. And also Johnny Smith going to get up against Jacksonville. I think he came off a goose egg, if I'm correct. He did. So we'll see if you're bullish enough to start him. Could be high risk, high reward there as he's shown. What I would say is bad matchups this week. David Johnson, we talked about, is going against Chicago. Pretty stout run defense there, just good defense in general. Um, Miles Gaskin is against Kansas City. Not that they have a fantastic defense, but the worry is that they'll go up by 20 points or so, and then Miami's going to have to just throw the ball all day and not have time to run it. Gaskin is involved in the passing game, but will it be enough? We don't know. We just don't know. And also, Josh Allen has the Pittsburgh defense this week. This one right here could be a matchup to watch. If the Steelers can shut down Josh Allen, that'll hurt Randall pretty well, and Steve will also get good defensive points. Um, Whereas vice versa, if Josh Allen can light up the Steelers defense, Steve will be hurting there. So this matchup could have really big implications on this game. Um, Overall, I'd have to give it to Steve. There's nothing to tell me that he wouldn't win this week. Um, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Stuff to keep an eye on here. A lot of stuff to keep an eye on. All right, moving over to the second matchup is me and Neil. So I am projected 148, and Neil's projected 140. So pretty much, pretty much the exact same. That's 10 points in this league is nothing, not much of a swing. Looking at the history here, in week 3, I beat Neil 162 to 146, and then in week 11, I beat Neil 108.7. Don't know why I wrote down the .7. That was unnecessary. Wait a second, 180. Beat him 180 to 121. So again, history doesn't matter at all. I just thought it was an interesting factoid to look up. We'll start with my team here. As soon as I praise my team that they're getting somewhere and looking good, we absolutely crash and burn. Holy smokes, this last week was awful. Gibson might be done for the season. Looked like he had turf toe. Who knows how long? I'm definitely not counting on him this week, and probably not even 15 or 16. AJ Brown, I think he hurt his ankle or something, which paved the way for that big Corey Davis day. So who knows what's going on there? Now I have taken steps to remedy this. I have adopted the ultimate 3 tight end strategy. That's right. I've got Gronk, Tanyan, and Hayden Hurst because I don't know. I can't decide which one to play, so I don't really know what I'm doing there. This is kind of emblematic of me just looking at my entire roster and saying I just don't know. Looking at some of my matchups this week, what do I call good matchups? I'd say Gronk, who I just actually picked up last night against Minnesota. Derrick Henry against Jacksonville. And then maybe I was on the fence saying Kenyon Drake against the Giants. The Giants have looked pretty hot recently, so that could actually be a bad one. In terms of bad matchups, I say Mahomes against the Dolphins defense. Though to be fair, Mahomes is one of those who's matchup proof. I'm playing him regardless. This is just one of the better defenses that he'll see potentially, and also the Miami defense, who I have. Who will probably get absolutely lit up by the Chiefs. So that could be ugly there. Needless to say, I am pretty nervous about my lineup. If I had to make a prediction this week, there's a lot of wide receivers I have on my bench who could do good, and a lot of question marks. My starting lineup in terms of AJ Brown being hurt, Terry McLaurin, having Alex Smith as a quarterback, and doing it in San Francisco. Which I was tempted to put as a bad matchup. I didn't. I'd say it's middle of the road. So my prediction is that my bench wide receivers absolutely go off, and my starters score like 20 points combined. So actually, I would take 20. We'll say like 15 points combined. So we'll see if that actually happens or not, or if I'm just worried for nothing. Now looking over at Neil, Neil has made it here by just having a fairly solid team all around. And also benefiting from having the lowest points against in the entire league. It's not by much, but he has the lowest points against. We'll start off with the bench here. It looks a bit concerning outside your starters. Josh Jacobs is hurt. He's not going to play. Gurley, I think he's hurt, still nursing a knee injury. Who knows? I think I saw he hadn't had more than 9 carries for since week 9 or something. Either way, it's been a while. Williams is pretty boom or bust. For some reason, you're still holding on to the Broncos defense, despite the fact that they play Carolina this week, who gets McCaffrey back. And then they have Buffalo, the Chargers, and Vegas. So I see literally no reason to have them in your lineup. But hey, it's your team. It's your team. I am looking at your starters. Um, Obviously, Tyreek is carrying your team. Tannehill might come back to a more regular game script this week against Jacksonville. They shouldn't go down by 35 or something at halftime. I forget exactly. So they hopefully can establish the run game, which could help me. So that's going to be a big game for us is Tennessee Jacksonville to see if they have to go air raid or if Derrick Henry actually gets to run the ball more. Um, Now, Neil and I have a lot of interconnectivity in our lineups here, which kind of sucks for both of us. Obviously, they said you got Tannehill. I have AJ Brown. Um, so any passes to AJ Brown, they basically neutralize each other with our scoring. Um, Conversely, I have Mahomes and Neil has Tyreek Hill. Um, so anytime Mahomes passes to Tyreek, it pretty much neutralizes those Mahomes points. But Neil also doesn't gain any ground with that. So that might factor into my decision with AJ Brown. I haven't decided yet. Yeah, Neil, you should probably sit Tyreek. I think it's just a safe move. You probably go with someone who can get upside that doesn't have my quarterback. Just free advice there. I'd go with that. Um, looking at Neil's matchups, we already said Tannehill's got a good matchup. Montgomery, who has been absolutely on fire these last 2 weeks, has a good matchup with Houston, as does the Chicago defense with Houston. Bad matchups. Kareem Hunt is going up against Baltimore, and he just hasn't looked great. Early in the season, he was he was doing better when Nick Chubb was on the field, but now that Chubb has been back, Kareem's kind of come back down to earth, and Chubb's really become the figurehead there, which is surprising. I didn't expect that. Um, Kiki QT, waiver wire hero from last week, bad matchup against the Chicago defense. Um, and also an interesting decision if you want to play him, considering you are fielding the Chicago defense. Um, Maybe Robert Woods. I put a question mark. He's got New England. I don't really know how good their defense is. Again, this is a lot of recency bias from last week against the Chargers. So it's hard to say. I don't know if that's going to be good or not. Um, looking at looking at the rest of them, I think they can honestly. Oh, T.J. Hawkinson's probably got a good one. Tight end against Green Bay. I think that's a good matchup. Um, but looking at the rest of them, they can probably go either way. So I was trying to come up with a prediction for this, and I honestly don't know. I think it's going to be close. I think we're going to be decided by probably 15 points or less, which is relatively close for a league like this. Um, I'm going to try to reverse jinx myself, and I'm going to predict Neil beats me for the first time this season, like 160 to 145 ish is my guess there. Um, so hopefully that goes the absolute other way. We'll find out. But that is all. Wow, holy crap! This video went long for just talking about two matchups. Dang. All right, well we got in depth on those. That is all for this week, folks. So seeing as we had football yesterday, which is Tuesday, today's Wednesday. Waivers run tomorrow. If you guys are playing in the consolation bracket, feel free to pick up players, do what you got to do, try to screw us over in the playoffs, whatever. I'm always a fan of just everybody keep playing to the end, so I say do that. So get those picks in. Um, I am all for going balls to the wall like Dave did and just trying absolutely ridiculous lineups to see what happened. We can always, if you want to do something stupid with your lineup and need to drop good players, like if you were dropping Dalvin Cook or I don't know, I can only think of Arias's team. Or like Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Jones, Chubb. If you want to do that, we can just lock those players so nobody can pick them up. If you want to do something stupid, just tell Steve and he can just make sure nobody gets them. Um, so I think that would be pretty fun too. Um, but yeah, good luck to your teams. Good luck to your fantasy teams, your real teams. If you're an Eagles fan, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's gonna. We have the Saints this week. It's gonna suck. But it's Hurts time, and they are literally throwing him to the fire against one of the top defenses in the NFL this week. So that should be fun. So yeah, good luck, guys. That's all for this week. And as always, fuck you, Spanos.